Hey, it's syndicated radio talk show host, author, singer Al Cole, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. I come from CBS Radio. My shows are nationally syndicated, and I've helped pave the way to treating women, guys too, with the dignity that they deserve. And I do that through my show, People of Distinction, treating people with dignity on a really dignified radio network, Apple's iTunes radio network under their professional news talk division. They air CBS shows, Fox News, NPR, BBC, and C-SPAN as well, best talk in the country around the world, on Apple's iTunes radio network. And you can visit my website, find out more about what I do, listen to my Apple streams that way, at peopleofdistinction.org, and you can email me on anything that I do. I'm also a media consultant. That means I help people to understand the media better if they're going to be doing interviewing. If they have products and services out there that they want to move, I help them move it that way. So you can email me at alcoholic@gmail.com. You heard me right. That's ALCOLE HOLIC@gmail.com. And I really want to thank my CBS radio listeners for coming up with that handle, Alcoholic. Seems like from day one, my listeners have been saying, Al, we love what you're doing there, brother. In fact, we're hooked on it. We're Alcoholics. And coming from CBS Radio, I'm also a New York Times best-selling author with Chicken Soup for the Soul. Chicken Soup for the Soul is distributed by CBS's Simon & Schuster. So we keep it in the family that way. Coming up, a lady who's going to be talking about family, about the man in her life. Her name is Grace Larson, and she has a gripping book, and we like this title, Once in a Lifetime Comes a Man. Now, Grace is talking about her husband, who died unfortunately, and she found out after her husband's death that he saved every letter, that every correspondence that he had made with her, possibly that she had made with him. Now, this is really something. She's talking about the beautiful times that they had together. Sometimes some of the tribulations, marriage is up and down. There are things that happen that are unpredictable. The thing is, if we love somebody the way that Grace loved her husband, well, we can get through the some of the down times as well. Doesn't have to be up, 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 up all the time. We know that. And she and her husband, wonderful, wonderful relationship. And so beautiful that she had to write a book about it. Once in a Lifetime Comes a Man. And I particularly appreciate where she's coming from because every book that I write has romance in it. In the title someplace. The spirit of romance. And romance for women, and a whole bunch of others, because I think that romance is the most beautiful thing in the world. And romance doesn't have to just be between spouses. It can be, how you love your brother or your sister or your mother or father or the kids, the best friend. It could be how you love nature, the romantic relationship that you have with maybe life itself. How much love do you feel for life and for the things and the people around you? That's real romance. And so this is going to be a wonderful interview. Also, now this interview is being recorded on Veterans Day. That's not the time that you're going to hear it, my listening audience, because all of my shows are pre-recorded. But it's being recorded on Veterans Day, and I bring that up because her husband was a veteran as well. This is an ode to a great man who really cherished his wife and cherished his country. He was a veteran. On Veterans Day, we have to honor that. He was a CB, and Grace can talk a little bit more about that too. I want you to order this book, Once in a Lifetime Comes a Man, at Amazon.com. And you can go to Grace's website, learn more, order the book there too, MontanaGraceLarson.com. Grace, it's a pleasure to have you on People of Distinction with Al Cole. Let's welcome you aboard. How are you today, Grace?
Thank you, Al. I'm glad to be here and I'm glad to speak to you.
Yes, and it's my pleasure too, especially on Veterans Day. Your husband was a veteran. This is
Yes.
fitting.
And I lost my son this summer, and he was a veteran, worked for the VA.
Oh, look at that. Well, we're going to be
My
talking.
youngest.
Yes, I understand, and we feel so bad about that. Let's talk about it here. Your book, Once in a Lifetime Comes a Man. How did you meet your husband, first and foremost? Let's get it started that way.
Well, okay, my first husband's sister was married to Lyle's brother, and the first time I ever saw Lyle, I thought, oh my gosh, and I'm married to, this other man.
Oh.
I just fell head over heels in love. The song, The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, really fits. Well, then we had some contact, just through family, but 18 years later, I was going to college in Spokane, and I had a dream, and Lyle was in it, and two boys were in it. One was a blonde, one was dark-haired. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder if he's okay, if he's still alive, and I thought he probably had a family. And so, I called his brother because I didn't want, in case he was married, I didn't want to interfere. Well, I found out he wasn't, and those two boys were his nephews, Bob and Steve. And one's blonde hair and one's dark hair. So I believe the good Lord had a lot to do with this. We started writing to one another, and I flew back to see him 3 different times. He had a farm, and I'd help him on the farm and stuff like that. And, of course, I had to finish my degree at college. And then we were married December 30th, 1982 in Spokane. Anyway, our life together was wonderful. He didn't mind helping with the house. He was my encyclopedia because he had a photographic memory. And I could do crossword puzzles and to ask him, and most likely he would have the answer. It was just, I really admired his memory, his mind. I said, my gosh, you've got a beautiful mind. And he'd studied world history, Civil War history, the Revolutionary War. I mean, he was up on everything. And he also said, he was 46 when we got married. He had never been married. Oh. And he said, I watched my nieces and nephews and my brother, and he said, I learned what not to do with a wife. So anyway, that was pretty neat.
Look at that. So we know that your husband's name was Lyle.
Yes.
And that not only was it a beautiful relationship in terms of the outside, as we usually say, some of the things that you're doing together in everyday life and the romance and everything, but you loved his mind as well. Now,
gosh, it was wonderful.
That's a beautiful thing, and that's a wonderful message to get out to all of our married couples and everybody that has a relationship with somebody, that the mind is so important to this as well, and the spirit.
Yes.
Let's unpack that even more with Once in a Lifetime Comes a Man. Tell us more about this beautiful love saga here with your husband.
Pardon?
Tell us more about it. About your book, Once in a Lifetime Comes a Man.
Okay. Well, I wrote the book. It covers our life together. It covers our wedding. And the song that I picked, Russ's song, it's a Christian song. And I remembered my aunt playing that song when I was 12 years old. And I had never thought about it until I was going to marry Lyle. Well, I searched the record stores and everything else, and I finally found the music, and we did have a lady that sang that song at our wedding. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. And then we moved, this is something else. He sold his place and moved out to Washington, and then I got a job as a chemical dependency counselor over at Colstrip, Montana. Well, when we were moving from Wisconsin to Washington, we went through Colstrip, and I said, "Oh heavens, I wonder who'd ever want to live here." Well, wouldn't you know, that's where I had my first job, and of course, Lyle went to work there too. And anyway, we spent a lot of time up in the Bighorn Mountains. We loved it, and fishing and hiking, and I had never seen the ocean, and we did go to visit the ocean. Went to California, where my second son lives, and went to the SeaWorld and San Diego Zoo. I mean, we just did a lot. We went to the Grand Canyon together, and one time we were on our way home, and Lyle said, "I think I've seen all the beautiful places I want to see for a while," because we traveled several thousand miles. He loved animals. He loved the garden, and he built really nice raised garden beds. And we had horses in some of our later years. And I sold horses over the internet, and of course he helped me with that. And he loved the new foals more than anything else. One horse that was, well, two horses were special to him. One was a buckskin mare lady, and the other was a black gelding. He called him Herman, but his registered name was Son of the Morning Star.
Wow.
But anyway, we had good times and we had bad times, because he was quite ill the last year of his life. And to say we didn't have arguments would be lying, because we did. Everybody does.
Sure.
At one time he said, "I'll just let you go about your pig-headed way."
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, how true,
So you gotta know somebody really good to put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. Yeah. And then probably some of our fun times, though, entailed work. We loved working together. We'd cut wood together. That was our best time, go up in the woods, because that wonderful smell of pine, and, get our firewood for the winter. The other thing we had was a big red dog. My son that lives in Chula Vista was going out on the ship, and he called us after the dog was on the airplane. Well, that dog was more trouble than you could shake a stick at. He chewed up the cushions in the camper. He wouldn't come back. He treed people's cats. We stopped once to get a pop in that, and the service station guy said, "Would your dog like some water?" Well, we let him out. He beat the guy's dog up right there in the middle of the highway.
Oh, boy.
So anyway, there's some funny things about that in there, too, with that dog. And the dog lived to be 14 years old. And, of course, my husband, being the farmer that he was, and that he's the one that put the dog down. And, of course, we both cried. The old dog never listened to anything, never did. And he dared all the coyotes to even come near. And one time he beat up 3 dogs at once at my husband's brother's place. He was just a different sort of an animal.
Yeah.
And then we had a cat that he had when we got married. He called her Ick, and that was ICK. She was a calico, and after her we had several calicos, and he was really fond of calicos. So anyway, I guess one time I came back from a workshop in Colorado Springs, and there was a note on the counter, and he said, "Welcome home," and he said, "Sheets are washed, beds all made." He said, "I'll see you when I get off work." And, that is just absolutely special. And he just was so thoughtful.
Absolutely.
Always.
No, that's a man to have around the house and every other place, too. This is really something. A man who's not afraid to be a man, even when they're making the bed. when they are
Yeah,
doing certain things, maybe in the kitchen to help the wife. Hey, we love that on People of
yeah.
Distinction. And you want to order that book to find out more, you got to order it at Amazon.com. Once in a Lifetime Comes a Man by our special
I
guest here
think people
today.
will enjoy it.
Oh, they certainly will, Grace. And we have some minutes left in the show. I want to take it out with a
Okay.
couple of things, ending with possibility thinking. But before we get to possibility thinking, you've told us so much about your husband and the beautiful life that you've had together. A veteran. Now, that's something special for you. Your husband was a veteran. Your
Yes.
son was also a veteran. And today is Veterans Day as we record this. Give us a few words about veterans here. Maybe certain things that your husband did as a veteran that makes it very, very special.
Yeah, he was in the Seabees in the Navy, and the CB, of course, the Construction Battalion, that's CB for initials, but they changed it to SEA and then BEE. Their motto, of course, is that we can do, and they stuck by that pretty much. They went into all kinds of different places to build barracks and housing, airfields, landing strips. It didn't matter. They were there. A lot of times they went in first, the construction people did. And when he was in Guam, that would have been from 67 to 71 when he was in the military. He said there were still Japanese there in the hills hiding out. And so that was kind of unusual. But he was a dynamiter and also a carpenter. And, of course, he used carpentry all through our life and the concrete work. He built our tack shed, tractor shed, remodeled our house. I mean, there wasn't anything he couldn't do. And plumbing, irrigation, it didn't matter. He could do it. And he never would take the car or the pickup in for an oil change. He always did it himself, even when he was not feeling well. And I would encourage him to do so. He wouldn't. He had to do it himself. So just a very unusual and wonderful man.
Yeah. This is so heartwarming. On People of Distinction,
Yes.
we love this. And you're going to love it too. Again, Once in a Lifetime Comes a Man. Order it on Amazon. Also, go to Grace's website, MontanaGraceLarson.com. So, let's cap off the show with some possibility thinking. Grace, I end all of my shows with possibility thinking. It's a way to encapsulate both the information as well as the spirit or inspiration of anything that my guest is saying in terms of what if. What if it came true? With other people. So, once in a lifetime comes a man. Your lifetime was graced by this wonderful man who came into your life. If every woman on the planet, and this is a tall order, but this is possibility thinking too. If every woman on the planet had that once in a lifetime man in their lives, what kind of world would that look like that it doesn't look like now, Grace?
I said he was my saving grace.
Yeah.
Yeah. He gave me courage. He said I could do anything I set my mind to. He really supported me in everything that I did, which I really needed that support. And he was there for me.
Yeah. Isn't that beautiful? And, I'm going to cap off the show with a couple of cents of my own, underscoring the great sense that Grace Larson has been making with her book and explaining her book, Once in a Lifetime Comes a Man, an ode to her own husband. People, this goes out to you, my listening audience, in a generic way. If we all did, as human beings, have the spouse, and now I'm broadening it to every woman has the right man, every man has the right woman. Now, that's not beyond the realm of possibility here, people, because that's what we shoot for anyway. At some point in our lives, when we are kids or maybe teenagers or whatever, when we begin to think in terms of attraction along that line, we think in terms of forever. We always think in terms of, wow, one day I'm going to meet the right person for me. I'm going to spend my life together with that person, and I'm going to raise a beautiful family around that person as well. And then we look back and we say, oh man, what happened here? And now we look into our society and the divorce rate is over 50%. Let me make a certain sort of suggestion here. Now,
well, I was divorced. Lyle had never been married. I was 42 and he was 46 when we got married. And, you know, it was just like we were together 32 years. And I just think that was a blessing from God.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the suggestions that I was going to make, Grace, and you brought it up. Maturity. See, marriage is not just a thing where it's not just a sexual attraction. Certainly, it can be a sexual attraction, and there's nothing wrong with sex. Sex is a beautiful thing. But so many people
There's so much more to marriage.
That's right. There's so much more than just just the packaging. Like you were saying earlier, Grace, the mind means something. Yeah, the spirit means something.
I love his mind.
Well, there you go. And see, if we waited a while, and maybe especially the women, waited a while for the man who they love the mind of, the man who does extra things for them, and we wait, we don't just jump into bed with that person. It's not just sexual. We wait a while, and we now maybe bring that person home, meet the family and everything, and we form a friendship with that person even before the marriage. And we say to ourselves, yeah, now this is the right person. We've become mature.
For a year.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Look at that. You did it the right way.
When we did get married, then all the nieces and nephews that I had through my first husband were my nieces and nephews again through Lyle.
Yeah.
So that was pretty special.
Look at that. That's a special relationship. And you've wrapped it up so wonderfully, Grace. On People of Distinction, once in a lifetime comes a man. That can be yours. All you have to do is go to Amazon.com, order that book, and run to this website too, MontanaGraceLarson.com. Thank you so much, Grace, for being my special guest here.
Thank you, Al. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, and we all appreciate you and your beautiful love story. Thank you so much, Grace.
You're welcome.